today we'll be discussing about C. I'll be giving a brief introduction to C. So let's start. Now C language. C was developed by Dennis Ritchie in 1972 at Bell Laboratories. The predecessor of C language was B language, and B language was updated and used for a couple of years, and then through that draft C language was developed by Dennis Ritchie in 1972. Now C is a general purpose procedural mid-level programming language. What do you mean by general purpose? Here general purpose means that C is not specific to any domain. That is C is not specific to any domain. That it is general purpose. It can be used for various domains and it performs in all those domains similarly with the same effect. Now in contrast to C, some languages like Perl. Perl is a language which is heavily used for scripting. Python is a language which is heavily used for mathematical calculations, for analyzing big data, for analyzing numbers. So these languages are specific to a particular domain. But C is a general purpose language which can do incredibly good in any domain. For example, C can be used for systems programming, it can be used for graphics design, it can be used for game design, it can be used for databases, it can be used for device driver programming, it can be used for designing an operating system. So C is a general purpose language and it is also procedural language. Now procedural language, by procedural language we mean that your program can be divided into small chunk of codes called procedures. That is, if your program is complex, then it can be divided into small units of programs or chunks of programs called procedures. Now procedures and functions are used quite interchangeably, but there is a difference between them, but it is not for concern now. You can think of it like in C there are functions. You can divide your code into functions or procedures, therefore it is called as procedural language. Now the last word is mid-level language, mid-level programming language. By mid-level we mean that neither C is a very low-level language like the assembly language, nor it is a language which is very close to English or a high-level language. So by being mid-level programming language, C gives best of both the worlds. Now as it is close to the low-level language, the speed of execution is more. That is, it is fast. C is fast than many other languages. So this was what C is. C is a general purpose procedural mid-level programming language. Now C is widely used for developing system programs. But this doesn't mean that the domain of C is only system programming. C can be used equally effective in all other domains. Now C is simple, reliable, easy to use, which makes it one of the most popular programming language. Now that is why it has spanned over decades, because it is a powerful language and is simple and easy to learn and use. So this was about a brief history about C language and what C is. Now let's move to the next slide. The benefits of C over other language. Now the number one benefit of C is that it is closer to hardware and therefore is faster than other languages. Now C is closer to the hardware. It means that the code that you write in C is equally fast to the code that you write in assembly language. That is, if you write a particular code in assembly language and you implement the same code through C, then there would be a slight difference between C and assembly language. There would not be a drastic difference because C is also closer to hardware and therefore is closely the execution time is close to the assembly language. So this is the number one benefit of C, and therefore it is used for hardware programming. Now the second point is C gives direct access to machine level hardware APIs, which makes it more suitable for systems programming. Now in C, you can directly interact with the hardware. There is no restriction in C. While the many other high level language, they restrict you to access some particular area of the operating system, some particular registers of the operating system. C provides no such restriction, and it has direct access to the machine level hardware APIs. So this is what makes it more suitable for systems programming, for device driver programming, for making new kernels for the operating systems. So this is the benefit of C over other language. Now the third thing is C is a general purpose programming language. So if you learn C, then you can use it in any domain of programming. You can use it for scripting, for graphics programming, for application programming, for a device driver, for designing an operating system, for designing a new compiler. So C is a general purpose language, and if you have expertise in C, then you can use it in any domain. So this is the third benefit of C. And the fourth benefit of C is that C is having a large and rich library, which have a lot of inbuilt functions, as it had been for decades. So the programming community of C has contributed a lot, and therefore it is having a rich library, and the new programmers can take benefit of this thing. So this was the overall benefit of C over other languages. Now let's move on to the next slide. Tokens. Now here we are now entering into the technical parts of C language. So what is a token? So token is the smallest unit of a C program. The smallest unit is that it cannot be divided further. Tokens are building blocks of a program. A program is constructed using tokens. Tokens are case sensitive, and every token conveys compiler a specific meaning. So now let's see what tokens are. Now see here. See, this is a code. This is the code in C. Now here, if I ask you how many tokens are there in this program. So see, this int cannot be further divided. So this is one token, int. Then this main is the second token. This parenthesis opening is the third token. This parenthesis closing is the fourth token. This braces is also token. This printf together is a token. This is the fifth token. The parenthesis opening parenthesis is again a token. Now this one, and anything inside the curly braces is counted as one token. So this one is another token. This parenthesis closing is another token. Semicolon is another token, and this curly braces closing is another token. So these are all the tokens in this particular program, C program. Now tokens are the smallest units that cannot be further divided. Now if you have learned compiler design, the subject compiler design, then the first phase of a compiler is lexical analyzer. Now what lexical analyzer does, it gives tokens to the syntax analyzer. Okay, so these tokens are the smallest unit, and they convey the compiler some messages. Now these tokens are stored in the symbol table, and the syntax analyzer then decides whether these tokens are written in a particular format or not, and decides whether the syntax is correct or not. So this token is basically the building block of a program. The whole program is made up of token, right? So these are all tokens. Now these int, main, printf, this hello world inside these braces, these are all different types of tokens. The int and main, these are keywords. This hello world is a string. Okay, these braces are special symbols. So these are all different types of tokens. Now let's see the next type. These are the types of tokens. The types of tokens are keywords, identifiers, constants, string, operators, and special symbols. These are all tokens. So basically you can say that everything in a program is one or the other token, right? So one by one we'll be discussing some of these tokens. Now keywords. What are keywords? Keywords are predefined reserved words. Now see, here int is there. Now this int is a keyword. You cannot, this int is having a specific meaning for compiler. This int means that you are declaring a variable that would be coming after int, which is of a type integer. That is, it would be storing an integer number. So in the same way, these all 32 keywords are having a specific meaning. This returns the value from a function. This signed is a qualifier that qualifies integer type of data type. So these all are keywords and they have a specific meaning. Okay, now the main important thing is that keywords cannot be used as variable names. It is not possible to use keywords as variable name. Now see here, int is a keyword, right? This main is the name of a function, right? This main is the name of a function. This printf is a name of a function, right? So now the names given to variables, arrays, functions, structures, or other user data types are called as identifiers. So identifiers are a type of tokens which are the names given to variables, arrays, functions, structures, and other user defined data types. Now see here, printf is a name. This main is also a name. Now the rules for identifiers are, an identifier should always start with an alphabet or underscore. No white spaces are allowed. So let's do one thing. Let's define a variable a. Now see, if I define a variable a, it will not give any error. But if I start it with some symbol, say dollar name, okay, and start with the another one with teacher 1a. Now these are against the rule. Apart from underscore, no special character is allowed, and an identifier should always start with an alphabet or an underscore. So see, if for these two there should be an error. Okay, it is asking for, see, it is giving an error. invalid suffix a on integer constant 1a. Okay, error expected identifier on this before constant. So this is error here. Cannot name these things. Okay, now just let's change it and place space. A white space is there. Now again, see here it is giving an error. So these are the rules of identifiers. Now there is no limit for the length of the identifier. You can the name of an variable or array or function can be as large as you want, but only the first 31 characters would be taken. That is, only those 31 characters would be significant. The rest would be ignored. Now after identifier, another token is constant. Now constants are values that cannot be changed during the execution of a program. Once you have set in value, the value would be the same throughout the program. Now the constants are also called as literals. There can be integer constants, there can be character constants, float constants. Constant can be of any data type. Constants are generally those generally used for example, in mathematics, if you are using a pi, then you can define a constant pi and give a value to it. So this is the use of constants. Now next, from here we are discussing about a particular keyword int in C. Now the first line of this slide says that integers are represented by int, but not every integer is represented by int. Now what does this mean? This means that for all the numbers, the representation in C++ is through int, but not every number can be represented by int. Why? Because int has a particular size. If you are using a very large number, then maybe it's possible that it cannot be represented by int. You have to use some other data type. So that is why integers are represented by int, but not every integer. If it is large enough, then it cannot be represented by int, but not every integer can be represented by int. Now see, size of int depends on compiler. It can be of 2 bytes, it can be of 4 bytes, but if the size is 4 bytes, that is 32-bit, then the largest number that you can store is 214748367. Now this value comes from this expression 2 to the power 31 minus 1. So you are having 32 bits and 1 bit, that is the leftmost bit, is reserved for sign, and the remaining 31 bits are used to represent number. Now these numbers are stored in binary format. So when they are stored in binary format or binary representation, then 2 to the power 31 comes to be 214748367. So this is the number, this is the largest number that you can store in an integer. So whenever a number is assigned to an integer type variable, it is first converted to its binary representation, that is in zeros and ones. Then it is kept in memory at a specific location. So here this number, it would be stored as 31 ones, and then decided by, I'm not writing 32 ones, okay, 32 ones and preceded by a 0. Why 0? Because this is a positive number. So this is how it would be represented in memory. Right, this is how it would be represented in memory. Whenever a number is being assigned to an integer type variable, it is first converted into its binary representation. Here it would be 32 bits, 0 preceded by 0 followed by 31 ones. So in the memory it would be kept like this. So this is what int keyword represents. Now here comes C programming language standard. Now what do you mean by a standard? Every language has a standard specifications that tells what a particular function or what a particular thing does in real world execution. For example, what main would be doing? What is the standard behavior of main function? What if would be doing? What is the standard function of the if clause? What is the standard function of struct? How structures would be defined? So these are all the standard specifications which are being written in a standard, and these specifications documented are called as C standard. All the specifications of all the items in C, when they are documented officially into a standard, then that is called a C standard. Now here C is having many standards. ANSI C was the first standard, and afterwards many new standards have come. There are ISO IEC 9899-2011. Now these standards, these are also known as C11, and this is the latest one. Embedded C is the standard for particularly embedded programming. The programmers which use C for embedded systems use this standard. Now C standards are the standard specifications of C language. Now see, this is an example of how the behavior of a particular function is written in C. Now see, is it fine to write void main or main in C? Now the standard for main function in C is this one. I'll go to the next slide and show you what the standard for main function is. This is the standard for main function. The function called at program startup is named main. The implementation declares no prototype for this function. It shall be defined with a return type of int and with no parameters. So here see, the standard says that the return type should be integer and it should not have any parameters. Or if it is having parameters, then there should be two parameters which are used for command line arguments. They can be argc and argv, an integer type variable and a character and a pointer to an array. So this is what the standard definition, the standard implementation of main is. Now here what it is written is that, is it fine to write void main or main? Yeah, some compilers will allow you to write void main. But the void main is not legal in C standard and therefore should be avoided, should not be used. So why do compilers allow this thing? Because the implementation of this function is being, the compilers are free, the developer of the compilers are free to implement it in their own way. But in standard C, this is illegal, so it should not be used. The second thing is main. Main without return type is also allowed in some standards. For example, some standards allow you to write this, but not all standards. I had already told that there are many standards like ANSI C, C11, embedded C, many more are there, KNR. So these standards, different standards are there, but this main should also should without any type, without any return type, should not be used. Now in C++, main without return type is standard. That is, you can use main without standard without any return type, and it is not illegal. But in C, it should not be. It should be avoided. Now int main and int main void in C. Now see, there is a difference. Here there are no arguments, and here also there are no arguments, but we are specifying void that there is nothing. By void we are specifying that there is nothing. Now here's the catch. This int main says that there can be no arguments or any number of arguments. That is, there here you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any number of arguments can be passed here. But when you specify int main void, you cannot pass anything here. Now this comes from the definition of function signature in C. In C, if a function signature doesn't specify any argument, here it is not specified, it means that the function can be called with any number of parameters or without any parameters. So here the definition is different. But when you specify void here, it means that nothing can come here. So this signature doesn't come here, doesn't come into play here. This is different. So the difference between these two are that you can pass some parameters here, but here you cannot pass any parameter. Okay, so this is the basic difference. Both definitions work in C, but the second definition with void is considered technically better because you are not allowing any number of parameters to pass there. It clearly specifies that main can only be called without any parameter. So in C, if a function signature doesn't specify any argument, it means that the function can be called with any number of parameters or without any parameters. So when you specify void here, you are clearly specifying that main should be called without any parameter. Now, next one is line splicing, and I think this would be the last topic of our brief introduction to C. Now, what is line splicing? Now, before that, let's see some codes. Now, I have told you that some compilers behave differently for different programs. For example, the same program, if I am running in this online GDP compiler, see what the output is. 213 here, right? What it is doing, integer I have specified, and here %d is there, and I am incrementing the same variable I in a single printf. Okay, now this was the output for this compiler. Now if I take another compiler, the same code is there, integer I, printf %d /n I++ and I. Now when I execute this here in another compiler, now see what is the output. It is 123. It is 123 here. Here the output is 123, right? Okay, I will just zoom so that you can see it. Here the output is 123. Now output here is 1 2 3, the output here is 2 1 3. Output here is 2 1 3. See, here 2 1 3 is there. The output is 2 1 3. So the same code is giving different output in different compilers. Here 1 2 3 is there, and here 2 1 3 is there. So how is this possible? The language is same. How is this possible? Because the C standard, what the C standard specifies this behavior when you are coding like this. When you are coding, when you are specifying the same variables, you are using the same variables in a single instant, then such type of behavior is unspecified. That is, it is compiler dependent. So the compiler is free to execute it in its own way, so that the execution is faster. Okay, efficient is the right word, so that the execution is efficient here. So this compiler thought of executing in such a way that the output would be 2 1 3, and this compiler, it executed in some other efficient way, and the output was 1 2 3. So the main motive of showing you this thing was that the standard doesn't define every program's execution. What will be the execution of every program? It specifies that some of the outputs or some of the behavior of the code can be unspecified. For example, divide by 0, and if you are converting from float to int, then there are some cases where the behavior of the compiler is the behavior of the code is unspecified in C standard. So it is compiler dependent. Now it is important because when you would be doing some questions on when you would be appearing in the placement exam and some questions come, then always see whenever there is compiler dependent option, then double check that code. Whenever you see in the 4 option compiler dependent written, then double check that code. It can be possible that you have been given an example of some unspecified code of the standard. Now let's go back to line splicing. This one would be the last topic, and will be ending the introduction to C after this topic. Now what is line splicing? So when lines are terminated by a backslash, then they are spliced together with the next line. That is, they are joined together by the next line. So if at the end of this comment line we use backslash character, then what will happen? Let's see this code. Here, this is a comment. I have used double slash. Now this is a comment, and after that comment I am putting this backslash. Now first we'll run without it. So it should be printing hello and welcome, right? Now what line splicing does is, whenever you put a backslash, what happens? The next line is merged with the previous line, that is spliced together. They together are being declared as one entity. So when I will run this command, then what will happen is the next line would be spliced together with the comment line. Now the comment line would be extending till hello. So see, only welcome is printed here. So this is what line splicing means. So if at the end of this comment line, if we use backslash character, then the ending backslash makes the new line also as a comment for the compiler. So this is what is done here. So this was all about the introduction to See, thank you for being in this lecture, for seeing this lecture. Thank you.